Hi, everyone. Hello. So, we are going to be doing this every week, or every other week, rather. This will be something new I'm starting. This is going to be a session recap of the previous session of Iodithis. I considered doing this possibly for Dominium as well, and I may start doing so. Um, but for right now, focusing on my campaign that I'm running on the channel, I'm going to make this again a bi-weekly thing. It's going to be a session recap, uh, any important events that happened during the session, anything like that, we'll be going over here. It's sort of like how with Crit Roll they do Tox Machina and things like that. That's kind of what we're going to be doing here. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So, um, session zero. So session zero was not streamed. Session zero was a private session between me and the players, off stream, where we just got some party cohesion together, did a vibe check of everyone and how they feel about each other. Um, that's kind of what we did. With that said, I'd like to go over what's happened so far. So in the backstory for the campaign, the preface for the campaign starting, the main party consisting of Lucia, Alaya, Isaac, Arya, and Edna were put onto a trading ship after doing some work for the local Adventurers Guild in Dunhurst in the Scoetian Empire, which is the primarily human empire. On this ship, they were tasked to protect its crew and cargo as it passed through the Strait of the Ancients, the Pinmont Quay, a cluster of islands full of trade situated in the center. About halfway through their journey, their ship they were on, known as the Crimson Raven, was set upon by pirates and sunk, crashing off the shore of the northmost island of this cluster of islands known as the Pinmont Quay. The pirate ship was sunk as well, as far as they know. The party settled in the local Adventurers Guild for 2 days before seeing on a notice board a wanted poster for a drow man known as Deadlock, leader of a local gang, giving the case some trouble, who could be found in the forests outside of town. The guard were stretched quite thin due to some recent events, and so they were hiring on to hopefully get some people to take care of this before, it got too late. The party went to investigate, and the captain of the guard post here told them that in return for Deadlock, she would grant them a ship out and a gold sum totaling to 200 gold pieces each person. That's each party member. So that's kind of the backstory for the campaign and what's happened up until we started session zero. Session zero was character building, as well as we did them going and getting Deadlock, or at least going and investigating that, was the sort of was session zero, was sort of that vibe check that we did of the group. So getting into that now, and kind of what happened there. So they were in the woods and they went after Deadlock. He again, this leader. Hey, Crafty Kaiju, welcome to the stream. So, yeah, if you missed it, I'll kind of give you an idea of what's going on here. So, I'm going to be running a campaign. It's going to be tonight. The first session is tonight of a D&D campaign that I put together, known as Iodithis. And every about okay. So let me start over. Sorry, I'm a little jumbled. Yeah, it's very exciting. So if you're familiar with Crit Roll, they do something called Tox Machina, where they do a recap of their session. It's usually, I want to say it's the day before a session. I've never watched it, so I don't know. But it gave me the idea to do something similar for the people who aren't able to make it to the actual stream. I'll do a recap that'll be posted on Twitch, like here, as well as my YouTube channel, which the name is down somewhere here, I think. Yep, down there. Um, and I'll be posting the recap as well as the stream itself. So if you don't have time to sit through 4 hours of content, but you want to get caught up, then you can always watch these little quiet Kenku recaps, as I'm going to call them, until I find a better name. So those will be exciting. I'm very excited for that. But yeah, the party. So that all that I just read off was just their backstory of how they got where they are. That was before session zero. Session zero actually consisted of a couple things. So they were in the woods and they started making their way further toward this camp that this gang leader Deadlock was said to be at. Deadlock, I always kind of joke because he's basically a Cad Bane ripoff. I love Cad Bane from Star Wars. If you know who he is, then you know who I'm talking about. Um, and you know why I think he's cool. He's awesome. He's basically Cad Bane. And so he runs a gang out in the woods of the Pinmont K, and they go out there. Well, one of the party members, Elia, our monk, steps out into the clearing alone. The party members were waiting in the woods. No one had seen them as far as they knew, but Elias stepped out into the clearing. And Deadlock and everyone sees this person walk into their clearing, into their camp, and she announces herself and he's basically like, "Hey, just a wanderer, saw that there was a camp." And one of the members of the gang had been playing a tune that spoke bad about the Empire, because the Empire in this world is very, very bad. There's no other way to put it. It's a dictatorship. They take from everybody. They kill without quarter. There are races that are eradicated just for existing because the king, in his, and I say this sarcastically, infinite wisdom, decides that they are too dangerous to be left alive. And sometimes he'll decide that one of those marked races is okay now. For example, the most recent one marked for death was the Tabaxi. But tomorrow he could decide that that race of people, you know what, I was wrong, they're okay. Now it's these people. Um, and there's quite a few on that list, about a handful. Excuse me. It's not like every race except the ones in the player's handbook, but there are quite a few. And then there are others that are also just kind of, that guy needs to go. You right. He really does. And that's actually kind of a thing is they are, you ready to take up arms? Listen, get ready to take up arms. It's coming. Because the thing is, there are people in the underground, and as the party kind of found out in their conversation, him and his gang are kind of anti-monarchy as well. They're not actively going up against him because the army that's under the king is one of the strongest ever. It is the strongest army to ever exist in this world. And so to go up against that army is suicide. And so people like Deadlock, they're very anti-monarchy. They are very open about it, but they're not going to do something because they know they don't have the numbers or the firepower. That is something, though, that I'm kind of planning, is it is one of the big bads the party could choose to go up against. Um, the way I've kind of set up this world is there are multiple different bads the party could go up against. They could try to go up against the monarchy. There are others that I'm not going to say here in case any of them are watching, because I don't want to spoil, and I don't want to spoil for you guys either. But there are a few different ones. RPGs can never have too much fighting against fascism. Facts. Listen, fight against it because that's what it is, basically. It is honestly, and I accidentally did this. I want to preface this by saying I accidentally did this. But when I sent the story of my world to a friend of mine who's not playing in the campaign but a fellow DM, they looked at me and said, well, this sounds a lot like Nazi Germany. It was not intentional. I promise you that. Oh, thank you for the follow, Crafty Kaiju. Thank you so much. But yeah, no, it was not intentional at all for it to be that way. It just was a complete accident. And I ended up looking at it and going, okay, I could change it to not be that way, or I could keep it that way so that the government is clearly bad. And so that's kind of what I'm doing. The party, of course, doesn't know everything. Um, Here, let me close my window because someone's revving a truck outside. Um, I thought about it and I was like, I could either change it so it's less Nazi-esque, or I could just keep it that way to show that they're obviously the bad guys. And so that's kind of what I'm doing so far. I may change that in the future if it gets, if people complain or like, ah, that's bad, then I might change it, but we'll see. Um, I'm getting off on a tangent though. I'm getting off on a tangent. I do that a lot. Um, but yeah, so the thing about this world is like it's I definitely want the party to go after this off after the monarchy. I would love that. But if there are other bads that they could go up against, it is ultimately a question of what is the ultimate bad to them. What is That's kind of what I'm really going to put them in the position to have to answer is what to them is worse. This monarchical dictatorship, this fascist dictatorship, or is it this thing over here? What is more important for them to destroy? What is more important for them to handle? Um, because at the end of the day, the world's not going to end if they don't deal with all of them. And it all depends on how long they want the campaign to go. I've been in a campaign that went 3 years. It's still going. It is still fucking going. And it's our every other Friday campaign, Adventures in Dominium. If you want to stop in for that, it's about the same time as mine is. 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time is the start time. So convert that for your area. Again, that's 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern. Um, I'm gonna probably start doing the recaps for Dominium as well if I have time. For now, I'm mainly focusing on Iodithis because I'm biased because it's mine. So there you go. Also, I just saw your message. Sorry. 1 year arc where we did battle against fascists, absolutely epic. Yeah, I mean, hey, you can never kill too many fascists. You can never do, no, not possible. Um, but yeah, like that 3 year campaign. It's one of those things where like there have been many, many different like bad type things we've fought against, and we've been put in the position to question like what is more important to us. And so that's kind of what I'm doing here. But yeah, so here's what happened basically in session 0 to kind of wrap that portion of this thing up. So they went out and they found Deadlock. They spoke with him, and he was basically like, listen, I need to hire someone on to do this job for me because we are wanted men. We walk out there, we're getting shot on the spot. I need someone who's a fresh face. You guys seem capable. How about you go into the Adventures Guild Hall? We've got some planning done, so meet me at this place tomorrow around noon, and I will show you the plan we've got to steal some documents that will give us some legitimacy on the mainland. Because the Pinmont K right now is kind of cut off. So they can get some legitimacy on their business, try to dispute some claims that they're bad guys. Yeah, it's extremely sus. And so he's basically like, hey, I need to hire some guys on. And you know what's funny? The party agreed. This is the guy that they were sent there to kill or bring back alive or dead, because he supposedly, according to the captain of the guard on the Pinmont K, which again, the captain of the guard is the army. The army is with the king, so there you go. Um, they were hired on because okay, let me back up a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself. The party crashed on here because some pirates attacked their ship. They accepted a mission, and the reward for the mission was a boat off the island to get their cargo delivered to the other place where it was being delivered, and then gold. So it wasn't just money for this. It was also a ship off the island. So the party obviously agreed because that's their whole mission, is getting this cargo from one place to another right now. That's their beginning mission. So they then went into the woods to find the guy to capture or kill. Didn't look to see if there was a hostage around. I mean, they looked once, but they didn't like investigate anything. They kind of just stood where they were and looked around, didn't see him, didn't check anymore. Talked to Deadlock, took this mission with him because what they're thinking is because Deadlock killed one of his own men for disrespecting him. He spilled a drink on him, boom, he shot him in the head. Um, and so they're basically like, let's disguise this body rather, using magical means or otherwise, to make it look like Deadlock. We then turn the body in to the captain of the guard, And while they're distracted and all that's going on, we then go into the Adventure Guild Hall, steal the paperwork. We get paid by Deadlock and paid by the guard. That was their plan. And that's so far what's happening. I'm waiting to see if that's still what's going to happen, but that's what the plan was. Um, since then, I had one player I had to kick because they were kind of a problem. Yeah, we had to kick one player because they were a little bit of a problem. And then I brought in two new people. We currently have a total of 5 players. Um, so out of the 4 that came on the boat, because wait a minute, it was I'm doing some math in my head. Sorry, this is me at the same time as trying to figure this out. So it was Lucia, Edna, Elia, or sorry, yeah, Elia, Aria, and that's that. And then we have the new person. Okay, so basically there were 4 people in session 0, 1 drop, so there are 3. And then I decided, along with the party and one of the new people, that their party member just wasn't on the mission to get Deadlock, that they were waiting in town. Um, and so that's their. So they were already with the party. There's only one person I have to today introduce to the party, and they're one of the other new people. But it's gonna go so nice. I'm the way we planned it out. It should go so smooth. It's gonna it's gonna be great because, well, I'm not gonna say yet because that'll be a recap for next session, which again it's every other Wednesday. It's not every Wednesday, sadly. No, I'm kidding. I have a friend of mine who actually plays in my campaign. They DM the other Wednesday. It's not streamed, but I wouldn't give up that for the world. Their campaign's awesome. Um, so yeah, this is my campaign, Iodithis. Iodithis, however you want to say it. I don't care. I just say Iodithis. It's every other Wednesday, 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern time. Um, so there's that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to go over. I pretty much went over all of the recap. But with this being the first, so this is about how long the recaps will normally be, somewhere around this length. But I do want to give a little extra background here because it's world lore that the characters already know, and something that I want to give. Advertise our non-sponsor. You know what? Maybe I will. If I advertise a not sponsor enough, eventually they have to become a sponsor, right? So that's just how that works. It's just science. So yeah, I mean, you know what? Also, this is one of my players, by the way. Say hi. Um it's every I think I'm pronouncing that wrong. Not sure that's true. No, listen. It'll work. It'll work. It's every bot. Yeah, it's great. It's Discord bot goes in with D&D Beyond. It's actually really cool. I didn't know about it until this person showed it to me. That's in the chat. Um, they showed it to me, and I had no idea it was a thing until then. But it's actually pretty cool. It's not something that I use a ton myself, except in this campaign with them. Um, just mainly because I don't know how the fuck D&D Beyond works yet. But maybe when I do, maybe when I do. Um, yeah. That's what it's called. It's Avray bot. Yeah, I don't know how to. It's spelled Avrae. If you look that up, it's on there. Um, it's actually it's really cool because you can like connect D&D Beyond in that, and then um you can like have it roll using your character sheet in Discord. It's it's pretty sick. Because and what's really cool for as a DM is I can then see what my player is rolling. Not only am I seeing the number that's being rolled and the modifier, but I'm also then seeing what kind of check it was because it actually labels it like it was a intimidation or um, persuasion check or perception check. It labels what it is, and so then if I don't remember what you rolled, for example, if I don't remember, um, Yeah, it also works for monster rolls. Yeah, but like if, for example, as a DM, I got to keep track of a lot of things. If I, for example, don't remember that, oh, you rolled a 15 on perception, and I'm trying to remember, oh, you would have seen this as well. I might see that you roll, with a lot of different rolling bots, it'll give a number, but it doesn't show what skill was used. And so I can kind of scroll up and be like, oh, that was the number for perception. Okay. Is nice. Is very nice. I definitely, yeah, you're saying like I should use D&D Beyond. I probably will. My big problem and the big reason I haven't really delved into it is a lot of the stuff I use are from the other books besides just Flat Player's Handbook, like Artificers and a lot of the subclasses and stuff you get from Tasha's and Xanathar's. I don't really want to buy all that. It's really expensive to buy all those books. Like it adds up, and I just don't have the money right now. If I start getting more money from Twitch, more subs and stuff like that, I might, you know, if I get a little bit more income on here, maybe I will. But I've made like no money thus far, which is fine because that's not why I do it. I do it because it's fun. But like, I would probably only buy the D&D Beyond stuff if I was getting, if I could pay it with it entirely from Twitch money. That would be great. Um, is that a far off dream? Fuck yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah, that's a real far off dream. But maybe someday, maybe someday. No, I do. I've had a thought, okay, and I know you guys. One of you are a player, and one of you just started watching me. But my name on Twitch, it's Quiet D20 because I had no idea what to call myself. Frankly, that is the entire reason I had no idea what to call myself. But now I've got this persona of a sort online with my D&D stuff, which is the main thing I do, called the Quiet Kenku. It's a fantasy tavern kind of thing. Someday I'd love to open up a fantasy tavern, um, or like coffee shop themed around the Quiet Kenku. This sort of place where people come and they hear stories. That's the entire concept. Is like people come through the door and they hear a story. That's kind of why I called these the Quiet Kenku session recap. I'm thinking of changing my name on Twitch. If it'll let me. I think I might change it to the Quiet Kenku. The only thing I'm thinking of is now I have to change all my branding everywhere. And it's like, oh no, I don't know, wait a minute. I don't want to do that. Because the thing about this channel is a lot of the stuff I do, it relates to D&D and it relates to like all of that. So, I don't know, maybe I will. I don't even know if you can. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Ugh, God. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if it gets there. If it gets there, we'll do it. But anyway, just me kind of rambling. Ignore me. Yeah. Though, as far as with the session, though, I do want to give some background in the world, just stuff that the characters, again, they already know. Stuff that like is important to know for the kind of like vibe of the world. So at the beginning of the current calendar, which started at 0, there was a man named, or known as God King Markon. He was this. Rebrand's tough decision. Better rip off the band-aid earlier than wait, though. Yeah, no, I agree, and that's probably why I'll do it soon. I can definitely agree with that. Um, but in the beginning, there was God King Markon. He was this. Um, it's not even that he thought of himself as a God King. It's that others labeled him that way. He was sort of the best way I always put it is he was the George Washington of his time. He was this uber powerful man. He was an elf. He was an elf, so he lived a long time. He had a lot of respect among the people in the army because he worked from a lowly commoner through the ranks of the army and then eventually took power and united all of Iodithis, or Iodithis, united the entire world. Um, Something that had never been done before. It went from loose tribes to separate kingdoms with their own kings, but then he took power and everyone united under one banner under him. He lived and ruled for centuries. Eventually, he got sick, though, and he died. One man by his side, no children, no wife. There was one man by his side, and that was the commander of his army. The army of the army of gold is what they were called, or one of their names. A lot of nicknames, but main name was the army of gold. He was a good king. He was a good man. He cared about his people, and there was only ever one war, one actual like big war under his centuries of rule, and it was the War of the Shattered Blade, where two countries, two nations, fought against each other to claim an item, claim a weapon, the Shattered Blade, to gain the favor of the goddess of war. So that happened, and he allowed that to go on for a little while before squashing it, because during that time, a lot of technological and magical innovations came about. And so he was kind of like, yes, war is bad. Yes, people are dying, but this is ultimately going to be good for us. And ultimately, it was. But then he gets sick and dies, that one commander by his side, and a council takes power so that this nation, this great nation of Iodithis, the all the nations under one banner, doesn't fall apart. They came together to keep that from happening. And it worked for a time. They ruled for a few years before the commander and the army staged a coup. That commander became who is now the current king, the current dictator. He murdered the council in their sleep and then took power by force. Loyalists were rewarded with power, and those who were not loyalists were killed immediately. If you spoke out against the king, you were killed. If you sung songs against the king and anyone heard, you were killed. If you did not meet his standards, you were killed. He was also of elven descent. Him and the king having grown up together, or rather, sort of grown up together. Yes, I suppose they worked in the army together, and so they were both of elven descent, knew each other for a long time. The God King and him. But screw elves, exactly. I see the irony there. No, I see it. I see it. It's right there. But yes, so that's that. An ad may run here in a moment, just FYI. I keep them short. They're only like 30 seconds. So bear with it. Bear with it. It'll be okay. I promise. But yeah, so that's about that. So now that brings us to where we are now. That's a really brief summary of world lore. The gods in this world are mortal gods. And basically what that means is that they are just people that rose to godlike power. There are domains, and they do have god power, essentially. But they are people who were gifted that power by the previous god. So for example, it's kind of like they got a promotion is the best way to put it. You've got the say, for example, the god of light and life. God of light and life. He for example, let's say he okay. I'll give a better example. The god of light and life that originally was before the current one was named Solus. Solus ruled for hundreds, thousands, long time, thousands of years. And eventually he had to retire. His body was starting to deteriorate because they are not immortal. And as his body deteriorated, with a longer lifespan than a mortal, again ruling for thousands of years, he then had to pass that power to someone else. And that person was a paladin that served him, named Aenir. Inir. And Aenir then took that power, trained under Solus, and became the current. He took power and he took that place of God of light and life. And now his sister, more recently, his sister is now also uh, serving with him as the goddess of shadow and death. This is relatively common knowledge, and by this all happening recently, I mean it's been like hundreds of years. Basically, since before God King Markon took power at 0 NN, the beginning of the calendar, they were already in power. But with that said, uh, it's been relatively recent because it's only 354 currently is the year 354 NN. And so at the grand scheme of things, it's only been, again, just rounding here, 350 years since, Markon took power. Like a lot's happened in that short amount of time. But you got to consider how quickly things progressed in our world. Think about it. We're in the age of the internet, the age of technology. And it's been, I mean, think about it, like the 1700s. That was 300 years ago. So for something to happen in about 350 years, doesn't sound like a lot of time when you're talking about thousands of years. But if you put it in that perspective, 300 years ago, America didn't exist. At least the United States didn't exist 350 years ago. Technically, because again, 1776 is like the official start date of America, right? Of the United States. And so, I mean, yeah, that was less than 300 years ago, which is a wild thing to think about. Us giving the big middle finger to England was less than 300 years ago. And so when I was putting together the world, I kept that in mind. How fast can things can progress in a world if a bunch of people are working together, and if stuff like that is able to go. Um, so I did keep that in mind when I was putting things together. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's really all I've got to say. That's basic backstory of the world. Um, some chit chat here with chat, and then I gave a backstory recap. The future recaps are going to be a little more organized, going over the previous session. They probably will not be live like this. They will be just pre-recorded and then posted on both Twitch and YouTube. So keep that in mind. Um, that's all I got. I'm gonna hop off now. I got some other things to do, like session prep for tonight, making sure everything's good. I'll talk to you guys later. You guys are always, as always, wonderful. Stop by the Quiet Kenku anytime, especially tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget. I'll be posting again on Twitter before we're going live. My Twitter is right there. If you are able to make it, I'll be posting on Twitter, NSoulsYT when I go live. So follow there if you're not already, and I'll see y'all tonight. Bye bye.